Hey guys, this is Big Dan Bates here with Bates Photography, and today we're going to walk through removing people from your photos. You're at an attraction somewhere, and certainly there's always going to be somebody there. How do you take a picture without all those bodies in the way? Now, certainly if you are versed in Photoshop and you're a Photoshop guru, you could probably do a fantastic job and spend hours and hours removing every little thing you're unhappy with. But this is going to be a way that if you take your time and you're patient in taking your initial photos, you will have to do nearly nothing. And even if you're not, in this case where I was rushed and only got to take 8 photographs, you have a lot less to remove from your picture. So let's get started. The process itself is actually simple. Once you're shown it, you won't believe how easy it is. So we're going to start here in Lightroom, and I have 8 photos. Now the setup for this is we're at Angel Oak in South Carolina. It's a massive tree, documented well over like, I don't know, 700 years old. It's one of the oldest living trees in America. The thing is massive. In this picture, it's a little difficult to tell. If you look towards the background, you actually see some people, even with the trunk, and how small they look compared to the trunk. It is over like 30 feet around, and from furthest limb to furthest limb wide is over 120 some feet, and it's like 70 or 90 foot tall. I forget the actual dimensions. It's massive. One of those limbs is bigger than any tree that we have around here by my house in New Jersey. It is absolutely something to see. There's always somebody there, and I don't care where it is. You're on a boardwalk, you're at the beach, no matter you're at some national monument or park, there's always going to be people. So the setup for this is a camera on a sturdy tripod. I was not on a sturdy tripod. On a solid surface. I was not on a solid surface. And you're going to take a series of pictures, preferably with a remote trigger, whether it be if you're shooting Sony like I am through the app, or I have a tethered remote I use for real estate photography, or an infrared remote. Preferably, you don't want to have the camera even touched once it's set up. I did not have that freedom. Again, when I was taking these photos, I was taking the photos with the intent of doing what I'm doing here, but never with the intent of making a video. I would have spent more time and did more. It was a brutal day out. The bugs were horrendous. My arms right now look like I have some sort of disease. I must have 60 bites between my 2 arms. And whatever their little sandflies or no-see-ums are down there in South Carolina, they are 10 times worse than the mosquitoes in New Jersey. It was brutal. These things itched forever. So it was a quick 15-minute in and out. The point, or the overall thing we're looking to achieve here is to take a series of photos spanning a distance of time where these people here in this photo, but maybe 10 minutes later they're here. So now you can take another photo. These people here back never actually moved. Some of these people moved, some didn't. This guy ended up coming over here and standing for like 4 of the pictures. So they won't be removed fully. But 90% of the people will be gone, and there'll be artifacts we then have to clean up. But that's easy compared to trying to get all these people and these little things out of the frame. So to start with, we have our 8 photos. I'm going to roughly develop the first photo, and then we're going to make the rest of them match. Now, we are not getting into any type of cropping and composition here. You do not want to do that ahead of time. So we're going to do a basic. This certainly is not my normal development here. I'm literally just going to fly through this quick as possible just to get. I do have my lens correction on. Now, we can only get so far back from this tree, and this tree is massive. We achieved this, capturing this entire tree, because we were using a Zeiss to it 12 millimeter, which we uploaded a video on. My wife likes to do her videos with some of her lenses actually in the field, taking pictures, and in this case a wide angle scenario. So I just made that video for her. That video is up as well if you want to check out the Zeiss to it. Obviously, again, now I am not one and I usually expose for the sky and then brighten up the rest of the image. I love skies, but I'm a purist in a sense where I do not want to insert a sky by some means, superimpose a sky behind this. That is not what I do. I certainly have the skill set where I could do it. It doesn't interest me. What I am looking at in my camera is what I want to see, with the exception of obviously, taking people out, whatever. But whatever the sky was that day is the sky I want to be seen. I don't want to alter the image, that my vision of what I was trying to capture. But in a situation like this, I will, and maybe this doesn't make me a purist, I will bump up these blues to try to bring some of those blues in, and a little bit of yellow. I actually want this picture to be slightly surreal. So we're going to bump up that vibrance a little bit, and we're going to see it come alive is right here when I drop those highlights down. Look how crazy everything just got. And we're going to bring the shadows up. Bring our whites a little bit. I want to darken our blacks. Okay, we're going to bring that exposure up. Again, this is definitely would never be my final edit, but it's going to suffice for what we're trying to do here. So I spent hours, hypothetically, I have this edit where I need it to be. We could certainly click this picture and hit previous over here, and then click that one. They made it very simple. If you just shift click for Windows, I'm not sure what the equivalent on Mac would be. Our previous is now sync. We click sync, we tell it okay. If you're doing this for reasons other than this, or if in your initial edit you've put in spot removal, or you did some cropping, again, you don't want to do any of that transformation. You do not want to do any of that at this point. If you're one who puts center lights on by using gradient filters, you don't want to do any of that yet. We'll have the opportunity to do that later. Because everything has to be exact, you don't want anything that as you go picture to picture, especially if your cropping's off, that's going to not be in alignment. So we're just leaving the standard things in. We're going to hit synchronize, and that's going to develop the rest of these photos with the exact same settings as that first one, and it's pretty important. So what we want to do now is we want to send these over to Photoshop as layers. I want to start this, and then I'll edit the weight out. It's going to take a few minutes for it to bring them all in. But what we want to do is right-click on. We make sure they're all selected. Right-click. We're going to hit Edit In, and now your first instinct upon me saying this is going to be Edit in Photoshop. That's not what we want to do. We want to open them as layers in Photoshop. We want all 8 photographs to be on the same work pane. We don't want to have individual windows. We all want them all in the same work window. So we're going to open them as layers in Photoshop. Now that's going to take a few minutes to activate. I'll click over to Photoshop here. So it's going to start bringing them in now one at a time. Now I'm going to edit the video in such that you're not going to sit here and wait for the 2.5 or 3 or 4 minutes it takes to bring this in, but you're going to see a dialog looks like this, and one at a time it's going to start bringing them in, and you'll see it's just going to start layering them up over here. Okay, so we're back here. You see over here all of the photos are in here as layers. So we're going to, again, hold down Shift, click the bottom so they are all selected. This is a very important step. The first few times I tinker with this technique, I did not do this step. And I always wondered why my pictures looked a little off. It would occur to a lot of people, even if they shot with a tripod, perhaps, to align the photos. But even how you align them matter. So we could go up to Layer and go to Align Layers, and it's going to say the tops, the vertical centers. None of that's going to assist us in this situation. We have to go to Edit, Auto Align Layers. Auto has always worked fine for me, so I just leave it on Auto. And we're going to click OK. Now again, this is going to take a few minutes to do, so we'll come back once the alignment's done. Okay, so we're back. The alignment is complete, and you'll see, because I was on a soft surface and I was physically pressing the camera, my pictures did get slightly misaligned. You see this white here, and a little bit up here, and a little bit down here. At some point, there was a progressive twist that was occurring to the right or the left in these images. Had I not have aligned it with the auto align under the edit menu, my final product would have had a bizarre slight motion blur, and it just is how it happens. So make sure you always do the alignment. So now we have these, they're still all selected as one. We now have to compile these into what's called a smart object. So let's go to Layer, and then we're going to go down to Smart Objects, Convert to a Smart Object. And again, this is going to take a couple of minutes, so we'll be back. All right, we are back, and we see over here now it has taken these 8 photographs, these 8 layers, and combined them into one stacked smart object. So now this is the magic. We're going back up to Layer, back into Smart Objects, and we're going to go to Stack Mode. This is what's actually going to look at each individual picture and determine what is an anchor object. I'm using that term. I don't know that's a correct term, but what objects are anchored in the frame, meaning they never move. And the objects that do move, they're going to eliminate. Now, there's a few settings here. Some have nothing to do with what we're trying to achieve. Basically, we're looking at mean and median and minimum for what we're trying to do. Minimum doesn't do a whole lot. It does the bare minimum. And mean kind of takes an average, hence mean. Median seems to work best for this. Some of them, like maximum, will actually multiply the number of people there. So it does an average. And there'll be people that will say we're in 7 of the images, but not in the 7th. So now they'll be there, but they'll be a little transparent. And then there'll be people that were in 4, but not 8, and they'll be just about completely gone. And then people who in every frame moved, and they're gone without even the slightest of artifact. So we're going to go to median, because that's what I've found to work best for my purposes. Now this doesn't take as long as the other thing, so we're just going to stay with it as it works. This actually works pretty quickly. And what we're going to do is, after this is done, we are then going to do our crop and then go in and clean up any disembodied legs or weird things that stayed behind. Now we see it's done now, and a lot's gone. Now I knew going in, and I told you that these people never moved, and he came over at some point during the process and was hanging out for several photos. Again, if you take your time, if you plan on doing this, take a picture every 10 minutes for an hour. You know, if you see there's a particular couple that's never moving, wait for them to move and then take several pictures with them not there. You politely go up and say, look, I'm doing a sequence of photos. Could I have you guys just move 4 foot that way? That's you don't have to leave, nothing. Could you just slide over a bit so my program understands that you're not part of the stable environment? So now we're here. The next step we have to do is go back to layers, back to smart objects, and rasterize. This takes this stack and basically merges everything together to make one picture. Now you're ready to do whatever other editing you see fit. So one of the first things that I would do in this situation, or what I did do, because I did already do this once, is come in with an 8x10 crop. And I want to frame this tree best as I can here. Something probably about like that. And then now we have some artifacts here. Like I said, these people never moved. He came in a little bit later. So we could get into, and I'm not going to do my whole picture right now, But we could get into, getting rid of these people with doing some clone stuff. You got, when you're doing clone, you got to keep adjusting where you're pulling from so it's not the same 7 leaves being placed on top of each other over and over again. But, you get the drill. I mean, if you understand how to do this, then, you're already ahead of the game. Now we can remove this little monument, which I did in my final picture. But again, you got to make it look natural, so try to keep moving and adjusting where you're pulling those images from so it doesn't look like a bunch of repetitious stuff. So now, again, this is by no means my final edit. I just wanted to create something to show you, okay, how we eliminated most of the people here. We have a little bit like a ghost leg over here and a half of a person there where, again, I didn't space this out and I didn't take a lot of pictures. The more patient you are, the more you plan for this, the more you observe who's been standing there for several pictures and who hasn't, you will get a nearly flawless image. Now the rest of this, like these signs, well, that's just a matter of, going through and doing whatever you would normally do to eliminate this stuff. However you see fit. I'm obviously not doing this for the intent of actually doing it. I'm just messing around. So however you would normally eliminate those things, that's fine, but this is going to save you a ton. And again, if you plan for it, you will have to do nothing. I have seen examples of the Taj Mahal where a photographer, granted, spent all day at the Taj Mahal in one position, sitting on one ledge with his camera every 15-20 minutes taking one shot. But once he did this, he had nothing else to do. There wasn't a person, a fragment of a person, nothing to be seen. This is a real simple way, if you plan ahead, to get a flawless picture with no people pollution, as I call it. So what you do from here, rather, let me zoom back out on this. Obviously, we could be doing a lot more editing to this, but just for the sake of what we're doing in this video, this is an editing video, you're going to go up top, you're going to hit File, Save, File, Close. And what's going to happen when you go back to Lightroom? There it is. It automatically kicks it back to Lightroom. Now that you're back in Lightroom, you can do further editing. You can put on your, if you're one of these people that do like dodging or burning, you could come in and do all that type of stuff and bring stuff to life here. Darken up areas you want to darken. Maybe these leaves are a little hot for you. But you can come in then and do your further editing now. Now, granted, once it kicks it back to Lightroom, it is no longer a RAW file. Usually it kicks it back as a TIFF. Yeah, see that says edit-3.tiff. So you still can edit. It's no different from editing like a JPEG, but you're not going to have the freedoms you would have with a RAW file. So that's why I said get the beef and potatoes editing done before you do the rest. Now this is just touching up and cleaning up. Obviously all these signs and all would be gone, and actually I'm going to show you here now one of the frames I started with. I'll crop it 8x10 so it's similar. One of the frames I started with, and then my finished product. And you can see what a difference this makes and how easy it was. So thanks for joining me again. I'm dedicating this video to my brother Mike, who passed away yesterday. Had a very young age of 53. But he passed in his sleep, peaceful in his bed. And it's a better death than most of us will get to experience. So God bless him. And God bless you all for tuning in. And if you have comments, questions, input, anything on this video you need help with or further information on, feel free to comment under the video. Reach out to me at facebook.com/batesphoto.net, Daniel at batesphoto.net. and, well, our website, you guessed it, batesphoto.net. So thanks again, guys, for the support. We're slowly growing, but we are growing, and we're doing this to try to get out quality content. I know some of the videos we're doing, there's probably other people doing videos like that, but we like to do it in a little bit of a different way, and we're trying to bring some original content. Like the menu walkthrough when the 6500 first came out, I showed you every setting in the entire menu of the 6500, and that stuff you had to pay for. I had to pay for that with the 6300 and the 6000 and the HX 400V, the fast starts and all that stuff you have to pay for. But we're trying to do this for the love of the art. So again, thank you for your support, and if you stick around here for a minute, you can check out my before and after.